Let me just get straight to the point. What do you even need in a gaming laptop anyways? A decent GPU that can help you play modern games? Check. A CPU that's not from the dinosaur age? Check. A screen that has a refresh rate of higher than 60Hz? Check. Seems like this HP Victus 15 has all of your basic urges as a gamer figured out. I mean, needs. But is it gonna help carry you to victory? Or is it gonna get you evicted from your squad? Let's get reviewing. Why do you even need RGB? Your KD already so sampah. Focus on not feeding lah. Full disclaimer, this HP Victus was sent over for this review, but as usual, we do reserve our right to an unbiased opinion. However, if you're interested in picking one of these laptops up after watching this video, don't forget to check out the links in the description because it will help support us and it won't cost you anything extra. Hashtag support local. Hashtag subscribe lah. Wait for what? So as you guys know, HP is a huge brand that serves a lot of different types of beverages. You got your normal office corporate type of beverages, and then you got gaming beverages. This is the most distilled version of that, like distilled water. They have distilled all the essentials of gaming, minus the extra frills, and delivering only thrills. Wow, that's quite clever. I need to write this down. Hey, paper? Now, with an entry-level gaming laptop like this, you're gonna want to focus more on the function over the form. But of course, it cannot look like your grandfather gave it to you lah. I think my grandfather heard me. Sorry, Akong. So the HP Victus 15 is priced at a very cheap buy, 3,499 ringgit. Our review model comes equipped with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600H with 6 cores and 12 threads, the Radeon RX 6500M GPU with 4GB of GDDR6 VRAM, and a singular 8GB stick of DDR4 RAM rated at 3200MHz. It's not dual channel, so I would suggest that you populate the other slot as soon as you can, but at least it's not soldered. Now going up to 16GB of RAM would be better, but since they are not soldered, you can always upgrade later. Storage-wise, you get a single 512GB of PCIe NVMe SSD, which is just enough for your OS and a couple of games. But there's also an extra slot that you can populate later, especially if you're a game hoarder. Honestly, the specs are pretty decent for the price, and I appreciate the upgradability, so you can always tambah lagi later when you get a little bit more money. The specs are... On the outside, the HP Victus 15 looks pretty sleek with an all-plastic chassis in what they call mica silver, but I think it looks more like gunmetal. And sorry, you don't get any other color options in Malaysia, but I'm kinda digging this color anyways. Branding-wise, they kept it pretty minimal with a reflective V in the middle of the lid, as well as Victus written here, and another V under the screen. These are the laptop's dimensions, and it weighs 2.3 kilograms, which is pretty okay for a gaming laptop, but it's gonna be a little bulkier than your higher-end stuff with a metal chassis. The build quality is also decent enough. There's very minimal flex on the keyboard deck. The hinge is pretty smooth and also passes the single finger opening test, as you can see, but there's quite a bit of wobble on that screen. See? So if you're like gaming on it, it's gonna like do that. Also, there's a little bit of flex on that lid, which is not that great. Other than that, as you can see, this thing is quite a fingerprint magnet, so you're gonna have to like wipe it down from time to time. And it seems like a very small nitpick, but the bezel here is quite thick, and a 16:10 aspect ratio screen would definitely fit right in much better. So maybe that could be an upgrade for future iterations. But hey, overall, I think HP did quite a good job in terms of design by mixing in some mainstream into the gamer aesthetic, so it wouldn't stand out too much, maybe even in an office settings, and your OL gamers can secretly rejoice. By OL, I mean old lady like Elaine. I guess I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. In terms of thermal design, we get exhaust vents at the back, as you can see, and also intakes at the bottom. From the charts, HP did pretty good in terms of heat distribution, where the WASD region only hit 33 degrees under intense stress testing, meaning you're barely gonna notice it in the Malaysian weather. Fan noise is also pretty quiet, barely noticeable, which is great if you're on Netflix and chilling and taking a break from gaming. Otherwise, wearing headphones, you're not gonna hear anything, so that's A-okay. Now here's a quick question for you. What do you get when a super corporate brand designs a keyboard for a gaming laptop? You get a keyboard for a gaming laptop that has a numpad. I'm a gamer, not an accountant, you know. No offense to all the accountant gamers out there. Jokes aside, there's not much to complain about this keyboard. The key switches feel tactile and actually very quiet, like they belong in an office. Wing. But of course, that edgy font is gonna give it away. Typing and gaming on this thing actually feels pretty nice. There's also the inclusion of a white backlight that will help you churi game under the cover so that your mother cannot find out. Naughty, naughty boy. Anyways, I actually found the numpad pretty useful when I was typing in numbers for the benchmarks, but some of you might actually prefer that HP remove that altogether to give you a more spacious keyboard layout. And one thing that actually annoyed me a little bit more than I thought it would is the fact that the on-off switch is between the F12 and delete button, very tiny over here. So when you don't have the backlit on like that and it's in the dark, the laptop not yet switched on, you will be staring at this screen until you find this tiny dot of light that tells you, hey, here's the on button, press it. HP, just move it all the way to the right, easy. Just put it in the corner, or just move it somewhere lah. Now that trackpad is pretty large, feels smooth, and also the clicks are quite tactile and nice, but you probably don't care about that unless you're an evil genius that games with the trackpad, in which case you should call me and carry me senpai. Here's a sound test for you ASMR simps out there. Next, let's talk about the display. And this is where HP sacrificed the most in terms of the internals. Sure, you get that 15.6-inch 1080p IPS panel with a 144Hz refresh rate. However, that 45% DCI P3 color gamut coverage, which actually tested slightly lower, is a little GG lah. I mean, seriously, in 2022? But then most competitive gamers that I know are pretty much colorblind anyways. I'm talking about you clowns that like to crank up your saturation and vibrance so that you can spot your enemies better in Valorant. Damn kiasu eh. It is also not the brightest at only 250 nits, so you'll only want to game with this in darker rooms. Best avoid the outdoors because you're only going to see your angry reflection. Which is correct lah, because most of us gamers like to hole up in our room and game anyway, so Nama. Despite all that, gaming on this screen feels pretty responsive and smooth thanks to that 144Hz refresh rate, but I would definitely not recommend that you edit your photos and videos on this if you care about color. The built-in 720p webcam is definitely serviceable, but if you want to stream with this laptop, I would recommend that you use an external webcam instead. Here's how it looks and sounds like. For audio, you get a pair of downward firing speakers at the front and one on top, and they are tuned by Bang & Olufsen, and it actually sounds pretty good. Not just for the price, for a gaming laptop in general. It gets decently loud with good separation and stereo imaging, so you can definitely even game on these if you want to, because you'll be able to tell where the footsteps as well as the gunshots are coming from. In terms of tuning, it's also pretty balanced in my point of view. The mids and the upper mids and the treble are pretty good, but there's a lack of lower mids as well as bass, which can make things sound a little thin. But I would still say that there are solid speakers for listening to music, watching movies as well as gaming. Here, have a listen. In terms of I/O ports, this laptop is actually pretty stacked. So HP managed to pack in all the essentials and maybe slightly more than what you'd actually use. There's a full-size HDMI port for a secondary display, 2 USB Type-A ports, 1 USB Type-C port, an Ethernet port if wireless doesn't cut it for you, a 3.5mm headphone jack for your gaming headset, and an SD card reader. I think that they should have just taken that out and maybe knock a few more bucks off and make this laptop even more affordable. The 3-cell 52.5 watt-hour battery is not bad, and you can get about 6 hours of use in medium brightness while watching videos and also browsing the internet, but you're probably gonna want to get chained to the wall if you're gaming. And surprisingly, that 150 watt power adapter is actually pretty small and portable. Moving on to the benchmarks, and we're going to jump straight into gaming. Looking at 3D Mark scores, the HP Victus performs in line with laptops equipped with the same Ryzen and Radeon combo. The difference in graphics and CPU scores in TimeSpy indicates that the limitation to gaming performance would definitely be the GPU. For AAA titles, you're going to have an enjoyable experience and decent frame rate at medium settings in 1080p for the most part, even hitting 67 frames per second in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Lowering the resolution to 720p could be a solution for games like, again, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but it could also do very little in other games like Horizon Zero Dawn. In my opinion, this laptop is going to be geared more for optimized competitive games like Apex Legends and Valorant, where you will actually be able to capitalize on that 144Hz refresh rate screen, where coincidentally, gamers might not care so much about color accuracy. Just remember that, as it's always been, AAA titles with nice HDR screens will always come at a premium. You just gotta pay for the eye candy. So I would say that the gaming performance here is actually pretty acceptable. But how about people who are looking at the Victus 15 as a hybrid laptop for work and school? Well, it scored pretty decently in Puget Bench Photoshop, but the Premium Pro scores are pretty low. I'd wager that the RAM has something to do with this, and if you want to edit videos on this laptop, I would actually suggest DaVinci Resolve. Even then, I'd still populate the other RAM slot and go up to 16GB. Next, we have Cinebench, which shows us the power of that Ryzen 5 5600H. The improvement over last gen is pretty sizable, so if you're coming from a laptop with a Ryzen 5 4600H, it's definitely a valid upgrade. It also did pretty well in 7-zip as expected. So while this is a gaming laptop, that Ryzen 5 5600H here accidentally gave it pretty solid productivity performance. Finally, let's take a look at power consumption, which is pretty in line with these components, peaking at 131 watt while gaming at max setting, which is a little bit higher than when we stress tested it in AIDA 64. Hey, at least we don't have to carry around a huge power brick. To recap, here are the pros and cons of the HP Victus 15. I give this HP Victus 15 a seriously cheap buy entry-level gaming 7.5 out of 10. Some entry-level gaming laptops are basically just regular laptops that are relabeled for gaming, but the HP Victus 15 is actually a gaming laptop that is just starting out and cannot afford fancy things like RGB or even a better screen. For the price, honestly, it's a pretty decent entry-level gaming laptop. And if you want something better in terms of build quality and screen, you're gonna have to go up to that 4,000 to 4,500 ringgit range, which could be a little bit much for some beginner gamers out there. One more thing is that if you want to enjoy that 144Hz refresh rate here, you're gonna have to lower your settings, especially in 1080p, or you can just lower your resolution to 720p. But you know what? At least it's there when you need it. So that's everything I have to say about this HP Victus 15. If you want to pick this up, feel free to check out the links in the description as I mentioned in the intro. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell as hard as you would hit your games and to get some gains. And also like and share if you thought this video was helpful, and leave a comment down below and we will try to reply to every one of your comments because you spend so much effort to comment, I'll spend so much effort to reply. Correct. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram to see more shenanigans from the Mobhouse crew. My name is Shane, the Bangsawan, and I will see you in the next one. See? Rhymes. Subscribe and wait for one.